Okay, bad habits, lack of self-care, self-abuse. We're going to go into this a little bit now, and we're going to talk a lot more about self-care later on in the program. So, bad habits, why? Mostly it's what we were taught, not only through watching our parents have bad habits themselves, bad self-care, going to coping mechanisms, but we learned young that it worked, right? And also, we learned because that's how they treated us. They didn't teach us to care for ourselves. If they were having us maybe bathe, maybe there was trauma around it, right? Maybe we were being abused while we were in the shower or bath. There's so much about the way we were treated and how we treat ourselves now. And then, as well as, like I said, how our parents treated themselves. So, if we were around people that had horrible self care and they didn't care about us, there is no possible way that you would have good self care without conscious effort. Does that make sense? It's nothing like what you were trained. You have to understand that we go to, school, say for 12 years, and then we go to college possibly, and we're learning things, right? Specifically learning. We know those educational things. We have that information stored in us. Same thing happens with trauma. Same thing happens with painful childhoods. Every moment of our life, we are learning how to behave. We're learning how to respond, how to be. And when we're learning how to be in a way that's not healthy for us, that's all we know when we grow up. So it's also a trauma response in the sense that a lot of self care things, as I mentioned with the bath, a lot of self care experiences, bathing, brushing your teeth, eating, exercising, not in too much TV, just these things that are basic self care, we may have been traumatized around. Most people with painful childhoods have wounding with food. There was some way either you were getting shamed for eating, you were forced to eat food you didn't want to eat, you were very limited in the amount of food that you were allowed to eat or the types of food you were allowed to eat. There was often being beaten for not eating, smacked at the table, a lot of arguments and toxicity happening around the dinner table, things like that. All of these things can contribute to you having struggles treating yourself well when it comes to food. This can be overeating, undereating, wrong foods. Like, it doesn't even matter what the outcome is. If you have a problem with food, it's probably linked to your childhood. If you're having a problem with taking a shower, there's a reason. So, all of these things are, as I've mentioned before, self preservation. These are our bodies trying to save us. So, as you think, oh, I'm going to go take a shower because it's good for me, your body is going, don't do that. We could end up in trouble. We could end up being molested. We could end up being beaten. We could end up being shamed, being controlled. Who knows what it is for each of us? But if you are struggling with self care, it's a trauma response. It is a trauma response, and you are in a fight or flight moment now when you're trying to do that. Remembering back, your brain is taking all the experiences it has had and it is trying to prevent future pain. So if you had pain, as I said, on anything to do with self care, which we probably did, or we witnessed somebody have horrible self care, you will have issues with self care and with habits. So, we are now going to talk a little bit more about the addiction coping skills side of the self care.